All right, good morning and thank you for being here. I'm Logan Bogert and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Albemarle County Police Department. We appreciate your patience as our officers and investigators worked diligently through yesterday afternoon and into this morning to gather all the facts regarding yesterday's shooting at Harris Teeter in Crozet. Today you will hear first from Colonel Sean Reeves, Chief of Police for the Albemarle County Police Department, followed by Captain Daryl Byers, Commander of the Criminal Investigations Division, who are joined by County Executive Jeff Richardson and Fire Chief Dan Eggleston. This remains an active and ongoing investigation, so some details may be limited at this time, but following their remarks, we will take some questions. I'll turn it over to Chief Reeves.
Yesterday afternoon, a tragedy struck our community when a lone gunman opened fire in the parking lot of Harris Teeter in Crozet. My heart goes out to the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives in this senseless act of violence, as well as to the greater Crozet community. We owe an immense gratitude to an off-duty federal law enforcement professional who happened to be in the shopping center when the shooting occurred. This heroic individual selflessly placed themselves in harm's way to stop the gunman and prevent further loss of life. Without their brave actions, there's no doubt the casualty count could have been much higher. There is one name you will not hear me mention today: the gunman responsible for these heinous acts. His name will be provided in the media packets following this press conference and will be released publicly, but I will not be recognizing his acts or his heinous deeds. Out of respect for the privacy of the heroic law enforcement professional, and because the Albemarle County Police Department is not seeking any type of criminal charges against them, I will also not be publicly releasing their name, or the name of the federal agency they work for. I understand that our community has many questions and is seeking answers. We are too. Perhaps the most pressing questions are why. Why did the shooter choose Harris Teeter? Why did he take the lives of two innocent people? In the coming days and weeks, our investigators will work tirelessly to answer these questions, and though we may never find all the answers. Before I turn it over to Captain Daryl Byers, I would like to extend my gratitude to the following for their assistance: the Virginia State Police, career and volunteer units from Albemarle County Fire Rescue, Human Services Alternative Response Team, and Victim Witness Services, and to the healthcare professionals at UVA Hospital. Finally, we ask the media to respect the privacy of the families involved in this incident. On behalf of these families, I urge the media to be considerate and sensitive during this difficult time. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Captain Byers.
Thank you, Colonel Reeves. As the Chief stated, this investigation is still very active. Our staff has worked diligently since yesterday afternoon to analyze surveillance footage, speak with eyewitnesses, and collect forensic evidence at the scene. Our focus today is to provide an update on the sequence of events and the investigation. I want to begin by recapping a timeline of yesterday. On Monday, February 17th, at approximately 1:35 p.m., ACPD officers were dispatched to the Harris Teeter located at 545 Rafford Lane in Crozet. Multiple 911 callers reported shots fired in the parking lot. Officers arrived approximately 5 minutes later and discovered 3 adults suffering from gunshot wounds. 2 of those individuals were pronounced deceased at the scene, including the suspected shooter, who was shot by an off-duty law enforcement officer who was exiting the store. A 3rd victim was transported to UVA in critical condition. Last night, the 3rd victim succumbed to the injuries sustained from the shooting. Based on the preliminary investigation, we believe that the shooter entered the Harris Teeter parking lot and fired a rifle at the 1st victim, who was exiting the store. We have identified that victim as Peter L. Martin, 43 years old, from Crozet. Martin was pronounced deceased at the scene. After shooting Martin, the shooter approached a 2nd victim in their vehicle. That victim was identified as Diane G. Spangler, 68 years old, of Afton. Spangler was transported to the UVA Medical Center in critical condition and later succumbed to the injuries sustained during the shooting. At this point, just 20 seconds of shooting had elapsed before the off-duty federal agent who heard the gunfire and was exiting Harris Teeter engaged the shooter with their personal weapon. The shooter was pronounced deceased at the scene. The federal agent was uninjured in the shooting. The shooter did not have a criminal history, but has had prior contact with law enforcement, with the most recent being in January 2025. At this time, we do not know if the shooter, Martin or Spangler, had any affiliation to each other prior to the incident. We ask that anyone who was in the area of Harris Teeter at the time of the shooting and has not yet been spoken with an investigator to please contact Detective Holmes at 296-5807 or Crime Stoppers at 434-977-4000. Even the smallest details may be helpful in our investigation. At this time, we will take a few questions. Please state your name and affiliation before asking your question.
Can you confirm the type of rifle that the shooter used?
And your name?
Sarah, CBS 19 News.
Yes, ma'am. It was an AR-15.
Spencer, Daily Progress. What? Why don't you want to name even the agency or the gender of the person that Chief Reeves described as the hero?
I can take that. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that question. For those of you that didn't hear, is why I'm not naming the federal officer involved or the agency they work for. So it's my philosophy as chief of police, whenever we have an officer-involved shooting, that unless the officer is going to be charged criminally, out of respect of that person's privacy and their family's privacy, that I'm not going to identify them.
But as a follow-up, since you did identify the person as a hero, why not then hold them up as an example of a good guy with a gun or a good woman with a gun?
That question is for the individual if they want that. I'm not going to thrust that upon an individual and force them in the spotlight out of their comfort zone that they do not want to be publicly identified.
Jay Hart, WINA, Charlottesville Media Group. So I guess to close the loop on this thing, for sure, you're trying to find out whether these folks had affiliation with each other. At this point, we don't have a motive.
Correct. Right now, there is no clear indicator. That could change as the investigation progresses, but at this point in time, the case facts and evidence are pointing to a random act of violence. But again, that could change based on where any information that comes from the investigators. I'm sorry, you had one more question, Jay?
Yeah, if I could follow, was there any indication of how much more was in this gun? I mean, was this, you did mention you could have saved more, but whether there's more ammunition in the gun, I mean, what makes that statement, not knowing that motive?
Right. So just based on the fact of the firearm that was recovered, it was an AR-15 that was recovered. Our detectives are still executing search warrants, but the suspect's vehicle is present in plain view. There are additional firearms. The exact count of those firearms will be uncovered during the search warrant, but that's what led us to make that statement.
Hi, I'm Gina John with 29 News. My question is just, you mentioned that the suspected gunman in this incident had contact with law enforcement in January 2025. Are you able to share what that contact was?
Currently, we're not able to share that, as we're using that as a part of the investigation just to kind of see where what leads us, and it gives us some guidance as it relates to what happened yesterday.
Okay, if there's nothing further, we thank you guys for coming today and thank you for your time.
Thank you.